band whose career didn't go like they planned. But though they never had a second hit, we absolutely love them for one song. Welcome back to One Hit Wonderland, where we cover bands and artists known for only one song. And usually when you say one hit wonder, people think of weird, novelty one-offs that stand out sharply against the trends of the time, but sometimes a one hit wonder is just an act with one hit, nothing weird about it. And it's hard to imagine a band more stupefyingly normal than this one.
This is the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world.
The song was absolutely Story of a Girl by the band 9 Days, which was about 4 days longer than they were famous. Which is understandable because this is a boring band. A boring band made up of boring people who make boring music. And their only hit, absolutely Story of a Girl, is a boring song with absolutely nothing worth discussing about it. Not the lyrics, not the music, not the scene. It's basically a terrible, unimpressive piece of garbage. Matter of fact, just about the only interesting thing about it is that it may be the greatest song of all time. An absurdly perfect, instant classic that more respectable power pop acts like Fountains of Wayne or Teenage Fan Club would kill to say they wrote. Yeah, I'm a little torn on this one if you can't tell. It's trite. It's cheesy. It's lamer than lame. And yet there's something about it, isn't there?
You never seem to run out of things to say. This is the story.
And despite having basically no identifying features, it's also somehow very, very much of its time. A song that could only have been big in 1998. The fact that it's actually from the year 2000 is just something I'm going to ignore. And I can't say that I'm all that surprised that 9 Days never became a particularly successful band. Absolutely Story of a Girl is the epitome of a song that gets big and yet completely fails to make anyone interested in the band. I don't even think their moms ever listened to another song by them. Okay, so, that's our song for this week. Absolutely, Story of a Girl. What a title. Absolutely. This band isn't absolutely anything.
In your hair never falls in quite the same way. You never seem to run out of things to say.
9 Days has the pretty standard before the hit story, which should come as no surprise because 9 Days is a band with no surprises in them. They come from Long Island, formed in '94. They had 2 lead singers, John Hampson and Brian DeVoe, but like the Goo Goo Dolls, a band that also originally had 2 lead singers, it turned out that one had a lot prettier sounding voice, so he kind of became the default singer. Or, they would have if they'd been more successful. The word I would use to describe 9 Days is competent. They are highly competent. Not absolutely competent, but, competent. They're exactly the kind of local band that got a record deal and became local legends in their hometown, but no one outside there knows them. In my hometown, that band was Carbon Leaf, for the record. They had 3 self-released albums that you can find online. Yeah, pretty standard. The every band for the everyman. They're basically Mouse Rat from Parks and Recreation. And since these albums were recorded in the 90s, all their stuff sounds like it could play in the background of Party of 5. That said, listen to this, I can see why they got signed. Now, if you listen, you can hear the more interesting, rootsier, Counting Crows type band they were trying to be, and I like Counting Crows, so shut up. And they were by no means edgy in any way whatsoever, but this is still in deep contrast to their sound after the record label got their dirty little hands on them and turned them into one of the few rock bands that could be out-rocked by Hanson. And also, John Hampson had a girlfriend, and they had a minor argument, and he noticed that she drove him crazy, but he still loved seeing her happy, so he wrote his only hit about her. It took him like 10 minutes. Which, yeah, sounds about right.
This is the story of a girl.
Absolutely, Story of a Girl starts with the hook, which is a damn good move. This is a killer chorus, one that instantly lodges in your head. It's also a chorus that promises a lot more than the song delivers. For one, it promises a story.
This is the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world.
A damn interesting story, too, about a girl whose sadness was so great that all the world was destroyed by it. That is like some Greek myth, biblical proportion imagery there. But that is of course not what the song is about. This song is not telling a story of a girl who killed everyone with her tears of unfathomable sadness. I'm not even sure, beyond the chorus, it's about much of anything.
Your clothes never wear as well the next day, and your hair never falls in quite the same way. But you never seem to run out of things.
What does that mean? What does the fact that she talks a lot and her hair and clothes change from day to day have to do with anything? How did we go from world-destroying flood to shoes and hair? Flood? What about the flood of tears, damn it? Also, congrats on naming your song after a random adverb in the chorus.
I absolutely love her.
It's just a cliche-ridden song about a girl, and I like her, and a lot of the time she's not happy, but when she is, she turns the world on with her smile, takes a nothing day, and suddenly makes it all seem worthwhile. Aww. The first lines rhyme girl with world. That's like the definition of cheesy bad songwriting. I despise this song. It repulses me. And yet, I don't know. The only song I can think of to compare it to is What I Like About You. What I Like About You is not a lyrical masterpiece by any means, but there will never, ever be a song that perfectly ends so instantly primal it seems like it was there at the dawn of time. Story of a Girl is not as good as that, mostly because it doesn't have nearly the same energy, but it seems to have tapped into something like that regardless. Whatever is good about it, and I'd argue that there's a lot, it all has the stink of accidental genius about it. Like, I was just screwing around and I wrote an all-time classic pop song. And people definitely have tried to recreate what 9 Days does here. Just off the top of my head, in the past decade and a half, there was Todd Bachman, Evan and Jaron,
When you look at her, she looks at me. She's got me thinking about her constantly.
The Click 5,
'Cause she's bittersweet. She knocks me off of my feet.
The Ready Set,
She's got a love like whoa. Girls,
a billion other teeny bopper bands that no one remembers, and I don't think one of them has ever come close to Story of a Girl. And like I said, I do consider 9 Days a 90s band, and it's not just because the whole sound of their only hit is two of the biggest rock hits of the late 90s, Semi-Charmed Life and 1 Week by the Bare Naked Ladies, minus the rapping about meth and Sailor Moon. But also because this song seems happy, and the late 90s were a happy time. Whereas even before the 2000s got really depressing, the sound of middle-of-the-road mainstream VH1 rock got a lot more dour and sludgy. The big names of the early 2000s were, Lifehouse, Three Doors Down, Creed, Nickelback, Five for Fighting, Train, all of whom I consider a massive selling out of a genre that was not exactly hardcore to begin with. And while 9 Days is just as edgeless as those other bands, they've got something to them that's just, more upbeat, sharper, happier to listen to. God, I love every loathsome, disgusting second of this piece of crap. Oh yeah, guitar solo. Eat your heart out, Jimi Hendrix.
I absolutely love her. This is the story of a girl.
Well, this is getting repetitive. We've already sung this part like 8 times. Gonna have to amp it up a little. What are we gonna do to really nail it home on that final chorus?
This is the story of a girl who cried a
Oh man! A 1 second pause. Did you see that?
story of a girl who cried a
Wow. I mean, we could have done like a dramatic key change or, let loose with the vocals, but man, goddamn. A slight pause in the first line. We are the voice of a generation. How could anyone this creative not have a second hit?
So you're standing on a ledge. It looks like you might fall.
I read a music review once that said one good song can make an album, but one great one can kill it. And that was a review of Fastball's All the Pain Money Can Buy, which I think had several good songs besides The Way, so I don't think that's fair to say there, but I definitely would apply that to 9 Days. Absolutely, Story of a Girl isn't a great song exactly, but it's certainly a career killer. No one was interested in this band or the music, and to be honest, I have no idea why you all decided to watch this far into the review. But because you did, let's see that failed follow-up.
If I am another waste of everything you dreamed of.
This is If I Am, which bounced up into the bottom half of the Hot 100 before dropping out of sight. And, I'll be honest, this is even worse than I imagined it would be.
So you're walking on the edge, and you wait your turn to fall.
In fact, can I ask something? Are 9 Days religious, perhaps? Because this sounds like Christian rock. This legitimately sounds like the hyper-wholesome excuse for rock music that I accidentally listen to while trying to find a good radio station on road trips. In fact, I can't help but notice the way their logo has that lowercase letter at the beginning and the no space between words. That's something Christian artists do. Okay, this confirms. 9 Days went into the studio and basically had everything that might make them even remotely distinctive scrubbed off of them. Which is probably why the single cracked the top 10, but the album never even reached the top 50. Which doesn't surprise me. Who would buy this? No wonder that album was only certified gold. Wait, a gold record that's 500,000 copies. Seriously, 500,000 people bought this? This? Oh my god, we gave the record industry so much money back then. That wasn't even 15 years ago. Christ, it's like I watched the fall of the Roman Empire. For most of the acts I cover on One Hit Wonderland, the question, why didn't they have a second hit, can be answered with one sentence. Their music was shitty, and that's all you need to know. But 9 Days, of all bands, actually had a genuine setback they can point to. And that setback is the sad lament of pretty much every rock band, big and small, throughout history. Screwed by the label! And the sad thing is that in interviews they talk about how for their second album they want to put some edge back into their sound, and no one on the label got angry or demanded Story of a Girl 2 or anything, but when they finished the album, the label decided, nope, didn't release it. And for the record, this kind of thing happens all the time. Record industry people are dicks.
They thrive on misleading, tricking, and ensnaring. They're like feral animals, rabid dogs, thinking only of what will benefit them in the moment.
That said, 9 Days eventually did get the rights to it and released it by themselves online, and having listened to it, I can't really say the record executives were wrong exactly. After that, the band broke up, and John Hampson went back to Long Island and became an English teacher. I have this glorious image in my head of him doing that thing English teachers do where they try to teach poetry through pop song lyrics and, oh, this is a song I happened to write. How about that? Well, anyway, let's analyze the advanced poetic techniques used here. 9 Days has since reunited and self-released some more albums, and they seem to have gone back to their Americana roots, which is probably the wise move. Damn record labels ruin everything. Well, let me put it like this. This was the story of... No, they didn't. Like, yeah, they weren't the worst thing ever. They had some potential. The label blanded them up and then screwed them over. But even with the harder rock sound they tried, they weren't any harder than Matchbox 20 or anything. These were not unfairly ignored talents. The story of 9 Days could have been the story of a billion other bands. But it's the story of them, specifically because of that one song. That one awful, worthless, joyously wonderful song.